Please, while, the questions or whatever, try and sit still and do the meditation and keep focused, because if people are moving, it really disrupts the class. If you're fidgeting, moving, looking around. Does anyone have a question?
Hi, Stuart.
Yes, Matt.
So in his teaching work with you and your contemporaries with him, did Rudi speak a lot about Nityananda and Muktananda? Did he, for example, quote them a lot or share a lot about experiences with them as life lessons, that kind of thing?
Yes, yes, all the time. I mean, look, he told me, I don't know how many times, the story of how he met Nityananda, how powerful Nityananda was, how literally one meeting with Nityananda completely transformed his life. And then Nityananda became his root guru, and he went back a year later or 6 months later, and Nityananda had taken his samadhi, and he never met him again. But the meeting was so powerful that it completely transformed. I won't go into all the extraneous details, but it completely transformed his life, changed everything for him. And to tell you the truth, look, the day I met Rudi, this is a true story. I walked into his gallery and I was attracted to him like a magnet to a piece of, iron, it was boom, right to him. And he started talking to me about his teachings, about his teachers in India. He showed me a photograph, which God knows where that photograph is today, of himself lying on the floor at the foot of a teacher and with a picture of Nityananda superimposed in his heart. And this is the first thing Rudi ever showed me. And it was, to me, a very powerful experience to have just met this person and to being introduced to not only him, but his lineage. So he talked a lot about Nityananda in glowing, wondrous terms, as a remarkable teacher, not even a teacher, but like an avatar, somebody who was just born, to serve God. And, and Nityananda, through Rudi, became such an integral part of my spiritual practice that to this day, I invoke him in my meditations, in my daily life, because, his energy, his purity, his wisdom was so profound, and his willingness to give it was so profound. And I've been to Ganesh Puri, where he lived many times. And it's so interesting because they have a big marble temple there built for him. But I went into that temple and I couldn't feel his energy. And there were soldiers walking around with rifles. And it was tourists taking pictures. So I walked around the temple and found and discovered a place that was his house where he lived. And there was nobody there. And the energy was so powerful in that place that it truly, opened areas of myself that I never dreamed I could open. It was so powerful. So every time I went back to Ganesh Puri, that's where I went. I never went to that big marble temple. I would just go to that house and I would sit in front of the chair he sat in, and I would do deep meditations for an hour, maybe more, and open to the Shakti, the energy, the ancient Shakti, the ancient energy that was transmitted in that place. Through Rudi, I met Nityananda, and Nityananda has served me just about, from the day I met Rudi till today, and even before, I didn't know it, but I'm sure he guided me to Rudi. As far as Muktananda, Matt, I don't want to get into it, okay? I really don't, because that's a whole other story, and I just don't really want to talk about it. What went on, what happened, the kind of energy, teachings that went on. And it's just something I don't want to talk about, really. Forgive me, but I'm in no position to talk about that or discuss what took place between Rudi and Muktananda. It's a whole other story. It's a whole other chapter in a novel. It really is. And I can only tell you this because I was there and I saw it in my own eyes. What went on, and it's just something I can't talk about. So please forgive me. It's just, I don't want to talk about that. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I have a question. It's Jason. Could you elaborate on when you talked about
You have to speak up.
Yeah, could you elaborate on the union of the male and female principles?
On male and female energy?
Yeah. You've talked about the union that takes place.
Yeah, well, it's a very important marriage of energies that takes place inside a human being. And, I always tell people, look, tantric yoga is one of the most important elements of inner work that a person has to learn. And we always, associate it with, sex and eroticism and stuff like that. Because every book you ever pick up on Tantra, all it has is gods and gurus and, Mahasiddhas coupling with their mates. And yes, this is an important part of it. But in a deeper sense, the sexual energy is the energy that will activate Kundalini. And the sexual energy, when the male-female principle unify in the sexual area, through a conscious effort that we have to make to draw energy through the sexual chakra, that marriage will give birth to Kundalini. And Kundalini is the, pathway to God, to enlightenment. So the male-female principle, and this doesn't matter if you're gay or straight or bi or A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it really doesn't matter, because that male-female principle will unify in anyone who learns how to get balanced inside themselves, opening the chakra below the navel, getting the heart open, getting the mind quiet, receiving knowledge from the universe, and drawing the human level through the as Shakti, through the sexual area to the base of the spine. That's how the male-female principle unifies, because it has to be a conscious activity. It can't be some promiscuous activity. It's got to be through consciousness and through the evolution of consciousness in oneself. And what does that mean? It means the full development of a chakra system that brings that kind of consciousness. And then the yin yang, Shiva Shakti, Jehovah Shekinah. In every religion, there's the male-female principle. Every religion has it. God and the Virgin Mary, it's amazing how it's in every single religion. That union that gives birth, in Christianity, it's the Messiah, which in kind of Kundalini is like the Messiah, pathway to enlightenment. But this is an outgrowth of doing very profound inner work. And it comes, you understand? You can read about this. I have books where I write about this. There's a book I wrote called The Mystical Fairy Book. There's a whole chapter on this union of male, female, and that whole thing. But you can read about it, yes, okay, maybe this is then you got to do the work on yourself to build a system that it becomes experiential. It's not something that you have in your brain, and then you can't figure out how to do it, and you make yourself crazy. But as the chakra system refines and evolves, these things, mudra becomes possible. Understand? Everything that has to do with higher energy and even mysticism, it all becomes possible as the chakra system evolves. And one of the most important things is the bringing of the energy through the sexual area, because that really is the human becoming the divine. And it's all a process. Rudi always called it a process of inner unfoldment, of inner development. Step by step, these things begin to manifest inside you. Not as intellectual knowledge, but as living experience. And it's what I'm trying to do through these classes, to help people that attend them to build systems inside to where they truly can experience this kind of stuff and use it to get closer to God, closer to their enlightenment. Not use it to entrap other people because there's a lot of power involved. Not use it in a negative way, but in a completely positive inner sense that it brings about spiritual enlightenment. I once said to Rudi, he was talking about the power of inner work. I said, well, Rudi, with this kind of power, it would be easy to become a dictator. And he just looked at me and he said, what a bore. What a bore. And he's right. It's freedom or being enslaved. Freedom is the activation of Kundalini, and the pathway to spiritual enlightenment. That's freedom. Being a dictator over people, it's control, it's power, it's just dumb, I hope that's clear, it's a very good subject, and it's a subject that brings up a lot of profound, lessons for all of us, Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Yes.
Getting this kind of gesture of,
you're coming like static on a radio.
Can't hear me. Maybe I
hear you, but it's like static.
Oh, can you talk about giving and receiving?
Yeah. Well, also a very important subject, because in life, everything is about giving and receiving. You go to the grocery store, you give money, you get food. You understand? Every interaction with every human being, we give words, we give conversation, we receive word. Everything is about giving and receiving. And the whole purpose of that is to learn how to give and receive unconditionally. How to give somebody something, and it comes not from the head and not from what you want to buy them with something, but it comes out of the heart. And it comes with love, and it comes with compassion, it comes with happiness, and it nurtures other people. And when people develop the heart chakra through inner work, their interactions with other people are that way. They're capable of giving, and the gift comes, you can always tell when somebody cooks a meal, whether it's a pain in the ass or they did it with love, by just the taste of the food. You can always tell when somebody brings you a gift, are they trying to buy something from you, or, sell it, or it really comes from their heart and it's a real gift. I mean, you know, Michael here, he's in Stanford, he's been coming to my classes. He came today with a bag of food, and I could see it coming right out of his heart. The love that went into buying that food to give to myself so that I could have something to eat. And I had the soup and it tasted great. So that's giving and receiving, you understand? And you've got to have nobility of soul to give unconditionally. You have to be happy and full of love inside yourself. I remember once I was standing in Rudi's store. I'll never forget this. I've told this story, so bear with me again. Some of you might not have heard it. I was standing in his store and a woman came in with this huge bouquet of flowers. Must have cost her then $100, which was a lot of money back in the early 70s, you know? And she gave it to him and he gave it back to her and refused the gift. And he told her, you can't buy a spiritual life. You can't buy, something from me. And I won't get into exactly what it was. It had to do with a boyfriend she had, and and he gave it back to her. And he told her, please, I don't want this gift. 10 minutes later, a young man walked in with a bag of M&Ms. And he gave it to Rudi. And you could feel the love in that young guy when he gave this to Rudi. And Rudi hugged him and he kissed him and it was unbelievable, and he started giving M&Ms to everybody in the room. It was like joy, pure joy that, that was expressed in that gift, because the gift came out of his heart. It was sheer gratitude for everything Rudi had done for his life. And when you give gifts like that, the return is always 100-fold, always. So that's giving and receiving, and then you have to have the consciousness to recognize what people are giving you, what their real needs are, what their wants are. Are they trying to buy you? Are they trying to, bribe you? Are they trying, or are they really giving from the heart, unconditionally? I remember when I lived in Morocco, when I went back to Paris from Morocco through Spain, I bought, just before I left, this beautiful burnt orange burnous that I used to wear in Marrakesh, but and I loved it. It was a wonderful cape and I used to really like it. And I remember giving it to Rudi. And I said, Rudi, I have a present I would like to give you. And I gave it to him. And then maybe about 8 months later, I was walking in the halls of Big Indian, and a friend of mine comes running up to me, Stuart, look what Rudi just gave me. It's the burnous, And I started to laugh. I said, okay, Stuart, you can't be attached to that burnous. Rudi can do whatever he wants with it. If he wanted to tear it up and cut it up and throw it in the garbage, it doesn't belong to you anymore. And again, it was an amazing lesson for me. When he came up, it was a friend of mine. Look what Rudi just gave me. It was that orange burnous that I bought in Marrakesh, about a week before I left. So giving and receiving has to do with real surrender, letting go, not buying somebody with your gift, not possessing them because you gave them something, and not even expecting anything in return. That's up to them, whether they can give, or not. And when the heart is open, it's not difficult to give. When that chakra is really in bloom, You want to give. You want to nurture people. I mean, look, honestly, it's why I do these classes. It's giving away everything I've learned in my life. That's the purpose of these classes. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, well, thank you for those very, very wonderful questions. You really brought a lot up. Okay, there'll be a meditation on Sunday. I'm happy to say there are people coming here almost every day for in-person classes. Wherever you live, you're all invited to come. I mean, I probably will have no more than 5 people at a time. So better check with me on the days and when you want to come, because I won't be able to fit them in my living room, you know, where I do these classes. But it's very wonderful to have people here doing in-person, hands-on healing work in every class. And, you know, again, it's my job to give it away, to help train people so that hopefully they can build a system inside where they can do something similar. Not through ego and self-importance and who they are as a guru and a swami and, you know, all that crap that just makes everybody crazy. But unconditionally, with love. Okay, if there are no more questions, God bless you all. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. And have a good weekend, good evening, and bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Welcome.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you.
See you Sunday.